evening, everyone. Hope you're doing well and really taking good care of yourself. Welcome back to the fourth episode of Master Talk series. Today, we will try to understand from our esteemed guest as to how technology has transformed India's asset management industry. But before we get started, let's look at some of the key stats around our asset management industry. The asset under management, which stood at rupees 7.3 trillion as of July 2011, has now grown to rupees 35.3 trillion at the end of July 2021. This is almost a five-fold increase over the last 10 years. The total number of accounts or folios, as we commonly call them in mutual fund parlance, stood at 105 million at the end of July 2021. Having said that, for a country with 1.4 billion people, it still translates into a very low penetration level. India's mutual fund AUM to GDP ratio remains significantly low at 15% compared to a global average of 60%, presenting itself as a huge opportunity for future growth. If mutual funds have to reach the masses, technology will play a very impactful role in the whole journey, right from creating strategies to making it sure that these reaches to the end audience. In fact, today, one can buy mutual funds sitting at home, which was absolutely impossible to do, a few years back. On that note, let's start today's episode on the Master Talk series on digital transformation in asset management and role of technology in harnessing data. This episode is powered by Refinitiv, an LSEG business, one of the world's largest providers of financial market data and technology, in association with Outlook Money. I'm Harish Toshniwal, your host for this session. I am customer success lead for the investment solution team at Refinitiv South Asia. And it's an honor for us to have Mr. Swaroop Mohanty, Chief Executive Officer at Mirae Asset Global Investment India Private Limited. Let's talk to him and find out his views on the current market scenarios and the winning strategies that he has been deploying. Mr. Swaroop, India is definitely shining as far as the growth of asset management industry is concerned, and the potential looks pretty huge. At the same time, we are seeing some pocket of challenges as well. We have seen pressures on margins, increasing regulation, shift from active to passive investments, and very recently we have seen growth of sustainable investing in the Indian market. And most importantly, the impact of the coronavirus pandemic resulting in buy-side firms accelerate their operational changes and digital transformation. So with that background, I'd like to understand from you, Mr. Mohanty, what are the current trends of digital transformation that you are witnessing in the Indian asset management industry?
Hi, Harish. Thank you so much for having me on the show. Yes, these are very interesting times, and I think you put them in the right perspective. I won't call them challenges, the ones you enlisted. I would say these are progression of the industry, and as we progress towards a mature industry, these are the stepping stones that one go through. Yes, one of the startling ones has been the digital transformation. I remember when I joined Mirae Asset some 10 years ago, it used to be a completely physical world of transacting. And one of my bosses had told me, how long will it take for your product to be known across the country? And I thought that was a very weird question coming to us. And I asked him, how long does it take in South Korea? And he said 45 minutes, because everybody has a smartphone. We'll reach everybody in 45 minutes. And that's when it dawned to me that, we are on this threshold of change as we speak. And a bulk of the change across the segments of work that we do will be digitally driven. And if you look at us since then, we are housed in 14, 15 cities, and we have no wish to be there in 200 cities, because fundamentally we believe that the penetration will happen digitally, and whether it's mutual funds or across our lives. You've seen we started buying vegetables online, so mutual funds a matter of time, right? So Absolutely. I think that's something which was supposed to happen, but the pace at which it's happened in the last 2 years has been pretty phenomenal. I mean, from starting getting, say, a basic VPN for all our members of the team, to, say, moving to cloud at the back end from the server capacity, to transacting online. Let's face it, during the COVID, by regulatory consent, we were working from home digitally. There was no acceptance of physical transaction across the country. And you've sort of shown the kind of growth the industry has shown. See, the adaptation that happened during this phase has been phenomenal, not only from the asset managers, but from the overall environment as such. And today, communication is now digital. I'm pretty sure when we get out of all this, we will all long to go back to that physical connect. But the mass scale at which one can communicate with people on the digital side is something which has been a learning in this phase. So, like I said, in totality, the pace that has happened in the last 2 years has been phenomenal. And it's been a joy to watch this transformation. And I feel we are at the beginning of something which will just, I think something which is not known to me personally. I'm just enjoying this transformation.
That was very insightful, Mr. Mohanty, and you kind of rightly said it. It's kind of, evolution, or you can say the revolution has just started now, and there's a lot to see, lot to experience, over the coming years. All right, so I'll kind of shift gears a bit and would like to understand, right? Even if I talk from my own personal experience, we have seen buy-side firms acknowledging the value of working with the single open architecture platforms that connects workflows between sell-side analysts, buy-side analysts, and portfolio managers. It kind of provides a seamless research and investment decision-making process. So what are the things that you are witnessing, when it comes to buy-side analysts evolving, and how is that availability and access to financial data shaping up the evolution process?
See, essentially, buy-side analysts will determine how promising an investment seems and how well it coincides with, say, the fund's investment strategy. They'll then base their recommendations on this evidence. These recommendations are mostly exclusive for the benefit of the fund that pays for them, right? And these are typically not available for anyone outside the fund. That is how it works. I see they can provide enormous information about a company's revenue, expenses, profitability, debt load, say, and the ability to meet its short-term and long-term financial obligations. Financial data is important as it helps one's, determine and identify financial strengths, weaknesses, and relationships that exist. These numbers and analysis are in a way an opportunity, if I look at it, to make transformed or informed decisions regarding investing. That is what is happening in my view.
Very nice insight, sir. I'd like to add the fact that, Refinitiv has kind of collaborated, with customers across the globe to develop an application called as Workspace for analysts and portfolio managers, an AI-based platform offering fast access to required Refinitiv content. In addition, the platform aggregates industry data, deliver proprietary analytics, and automates critical research and portfolio management workflows. So that kind of brings different pieces together. Anything you want to say, sir, on that?
No, see, that is the transformation. I mean, earlier, what used to happen man to man will happen through a machine to a machine. And it is seamless integration, faster integration, and access to far more data than one could possibly do earlier. And that's something which is being witnessed as we speak, and it seems to be growing by the day.
Right, absolutely, sir. So shifting gears a bit, Refinitiv did an inaugural survey of financial business leaders and data scientists published in the year 2019. It verified that the industry's growing reliance, on artificial intelligence and machine learning. I would like to understand from you, sir, how are investment managers leveraging cloud-ready data and AI, machine learning tools and techniques to build unique portfolios and overall improve the performance and create that alpha that everybody is looking forward to?
Yeah, I think the market is leveraging a lot in terms of AI-driven investment strategies. There are many cases how AI-driven hedge funds are outperforming the actively managed funds. There is enough research, one can Google and get these data out now. From a broader perspective, artificial intelligence and machine learning help not only in crunching numbers and taking calls, but they also bring in the analysis from market completely and help the fund manager gain the sentiments of a particular stock in the market, thanks to, say, the social media and the chatter that happens on the blogs. These become also a factor from a secondary info perspective. This technology in future will help the fund houses in predicting the behavior of an investor, in managing the liquidity also. See, that also can be factored in. And AI will be a massive boon to the passive funds, like you rightly pointed out, And these passive fund strategies will help us reduce the tracking error further, and then will replace people dependency in times to come, is a firm belief.
Very, very interesting insights again, sir. Um, I'll kind of ask you a question about, like one of the pocket of challenges I spoke about in my inaugural monologue was that, there's a shift from active to passive. And with technology, data, and analytics, research analysts can now determine the secret factors, or what is called as the secret sauce, the different factors that come at play, which create alpha in a very rule-based and transparent manner. However, when it comes to India, active is still very active. Do we expect this trend to change over the coming years?
See, India is at a very interesting threshold. I must say that, very fortunate to be working in India at this point of time in the asset management space, because there is space for both. Good active fund managers can continue to create that alpha, which is something over the market returns. And at the same time, the advent of rule-based passive investing is catching on in the country. And both have space in India, in the country, which is very unique to us. Because if you see the rest of the globe has migrated to passive investing or rule-based investing in the incremental money. Whatever AUM you see broadly across the globe on the active side is mostly legacy money. But that is not so in India. I mean, there is still a lot of scope for people to go into their secondary level thinking and find either trends or stocks which can beat the market. And I do believe that we are still some time away from a time when we can say that, passives will take over completely. While if you see at the globe, there is a fair amount of active thinking coming back, and there is a fair amount of alpha being discussed. I would now believe that these are also cyclical in nature. As we stand in India, yes, it's great to see that both the active side is getting money, and there are some good managers out there, very talented managers out there who come and give you the desired alpha. At the same time, what we are seeing is the birth of some phenomenal and great ideas. And please understand, when we look at passive investing, though, I always ask myself, why is it called passive investing? Because a lot of active thinking goes into forming a passive product. Because once you make the rule-based product, you can't go back. Unlike active, where you can make some changes. In passive, it's a rule-based, it's an index, and you buy the rule. So there's a lot more thinking that goes into forming a passive product at this moment. And let's look at it from the regulatory perspective. After the SEBI categorization of funds, there is a limitation of ideation on the category, and the funds that can come is a reality. It's been laid down. So we will definitely see far more ideation of new ideas on the passive side. So it's a great time to be. Both are correct. We've done some back testing, and you can form portfolios with a mix of both. In fact, a mix of both can lead you better portfolios with better cost advantages. So great time to be in India, where both can coexist.
Sure, sir. And when you talk about like returns, I mean, do you think multi-asset investments will also kind of become a prominent feature, in India? I mean, right now it's either mainly focused on equity or debt, but do you see multi-asset products also featuring in India's portfolio of bouquet of products that exist?
That's again a progression, right? Finally, we will move towards solutions, and worldwide solutions take over. And solutions are allocations across asset classes. It's just that, we've been so heavy on two fixed assets in our past, in our allocation, that is real estate and gold. And once these become financialized like they have now, the liquidity of these asset classes also increases. Hence, the possibility of giving solutions across these asset classes becomes very evident. And that's where the progression will be. There is no doubt or debate in my mind that the solutions might start on debt and equity being formed as solutions, which has already started. Some parts of the market work very well, but sooner or later you will see the other asset classes also forming, and the investor will only gain from these solutions which come in. And these can be backed by data, can be backed by AI, can be backed by machine learning, will be technologically driven. And so the human element might go out. Once the human element goes out, the rule takes over, and then the market movements become irrelevant. and timing of the market, which is the biggest folly of most of the human element that takes over, goes into a backstage, and then discipline in investing comes in, and hence solutions over a long run work better if it's rule based.
Right, sir. I mean, you just spoke about reduction in manual efforts or manual intervention. Should the industry, worry about a lot of automation happening? Will it result in loss of jobs for many of people who are part of the industry?
Yeah, Harish, if you ask me, you should worry about things which you can work on. This is a progression. If you worry about it, you are fighting a losing battle, if you ask me. So it's better to embrace it and learn it, because there is so much to learn. And upgrade it yourself. If you don't, then you'll be left out as a reality.
Right, absolutely, sir. I think that's a very important message to all the viewers, right? I mean, you have to transform yourself along with what the market is asking for. You cannot
Yes,
be.
the world is not going to wait for you. It will move on. What happens is very interesting thing. If the transformation in the external world is faster than yours, then you are getting obsolete.
Absolutely, sir. Completely agreed. So that's a great message for all the viewers out there. Moving on to my next question for you, Mr. Mohanty. The fees that is charged by asset management industry in India has been scrutinized, over and over again. And we know for a fact, we've heard from different research organizations, that India charges one of the highest fees across the globe. And again, for various reasons, I mean, I don't want to kind of talk about it right now. But with the automation in place, AI, and all things that we are speaking about right now, do you think it will bring some benefits of scale in, and the ultimate beneficiary of all of that will be the end investor, will get the benefit of reduced fees over the long run? What do you think about that?
Harish, a price or a fee is decided by the marketplace. It's where the buyer and the seller meet.
Right.
You talked about us charging a fee in the past is a factor of the alpha that we have been generating, and hence the fee, right? If you look at both equity and debt, the answer already is there in front of us. On the debt side, while we are allowed to charge a full fee, none of us charge the fee because the beating of the benchmark does not come. Hence, the market has aligned itself to a fee which is acceptable both to the investor as well as the asset management company and the distribution community at large, right? In the equity side, we continue to do that because the alpha generation is still there, right? Till the time it is there, the fee will be there. Once that reduces, then this part will also fall into place. People think that it is mostly regulatory driven. I give back the example of the debt side of our business. There is no regulatory intervention, but the fees have been mitigated by itself due to market forces, right? That is what happens. If some of the alpha generation comes down, then this will also come down. I just hope and pray the alpha generation remains for the sake of investors. Fees are secondary, right? Absolutely. But if there is a question mark on that, there will be a question mark on this. Yes, when efficiencies like these come in, it brings about more efficiency of fees, and the scope of margins do increase. It will be interesting to see whether the asset managers pass back that margin to the investor or retain it in the advent of falling fees. That will be a story which will be again decided by the market. I'm too small a man to comment on that. So that is how it will progress. And as I said, these are very interesting times for even on the passive side. Let me make something very clear. A good idea on the passive side will also have the scope of commanding a good fee. Not all passive funds necessarily be low cost. If it's a good exclusive idea being got by an asset manager, he or she will command a fee. Mark my words on this one.
Sure, sir. No, absolutely. Coming from you, we believe in every single thing that you're saying to us. All right. I'll kind of now switch to another very interesting topic, that we are seeing, in Indian market very recently. So small case from Zerodha has kind of become very popular amongst especially the millennials, right? They can invest in various kind of schemes and themes and ideas through their mobile phone. Do you think this has become possible due to the digital revolution that we are seeing within the asset management space, where anyone can generate an idea, backtest it, invest, make investment possible rebalance the portfolio, and then monitor it on a regular basis. Do you expect this momentum to continue, sir?
See, I think when you look at small case, it's a phenomenal example, and it just shows the change in demography in India, and how the younger lot of India will behave very differently from the earlier lot. Because when you look at, say, my generation and previous to me, my parents, that generation did come about of a very strict kind of economic constraint. India was not a rich country. Now, when you reflect that to the next generation, there is a fair amount of economic strength when it comes to that generation. So the way they will behave with their surplus is very different from the way I will behave with my surplus, because I have seen a shortage of money. I'm not saying there is too much of surplus, but at least the way they are leading their lives is dramatically different to the way my generation has led its life. So a change in behavior was predicted. What small case has been able to do is sort of give a good platform for that creativity. It allows so much more thought to go into providing solutions. Again, coming back to our earlier discussion, it provides some very differentiated solutions. And to people who can take the risk and are willing to take the risks, these are very good opportunities. And add to the fact that it's led by a digitization of the country now. I mean, a small thing. Earlier, we thought opening a demat account was such a big issue. Now you can open it on the click of a button. I mean, that's a sea change to what used to happen, right? With the integrations of your Aadhars and everything to your accounts, going back and verifying a customer has become easier by the day. So the seamlessness of the process of buying or selling is become far easier. And you look at your own life, like I said, if you are going to buy vegetables online, and that would be the last thing on my mind to buy online, because it's tangible and it can go fat in 2 days. How can you not extend the same behavior to your investments? And I'm very happy and I had met Vasant Kamath very early in the starting days of their small case story, and I'm so happy that they've done so well, and I feel it's the beginning for them.
Right, you very nicely put it, sir. Just a start for them. So, do you think in the long run it could be a potential threat to some of the existing asset managers, within the country?
I think, Harish, if you look at the penetration that we are standing at, we could have 10 more such people. The potential of the country is so large. Our numbers are so huge if penetrated well. I don't think anybody is a threat to anybody in our line. At the end of the day, a good product finally reaches the customer. If our products are better, it's not about our, meaning all of us put together, including small case. That is the only way we will reach customers. And the customers out there have not been touched yet. So right. I don't think there is any threat. These things such cases only enhance the investment surplus of the people, bring more people to the market. And if they come to the market, then the other products can also get acquainted to them. So I don't see anybody as any threat. In fact, the current status that we are in, all of us should be together to penetrate deeper. And if I look at some of the digital penetrations in other sides, let's face it today, and this is what my wife told me, which has been a very eye-opening thing for me, that today, if you want to take a COVID jab, you have to register on CoWIN app or CoWIN the website. That means the country is already digital savvy.
Right.
We have to reach them, and you can reach them by good solutions like this, whether it's from small case or from AMC or from anybody. So it's not a time for any threat. The market is not yet made.
Yeah, no, I think that's a valid point, right? With 15% penetration at this point in time, the market it presents a very huge opportunity, and everybody, they have a level playing field at this point in time. And it's you rightly put it, right? Opportunity creates opportunity. If people get into the market, they'll maybe explore other products as well.
Absolutely.
No, absolutely. Thanks for that insight. Yeah, you were saying something else, sir.
No. I was just saying that, let's make a bigger market, then there is space for all of us.
Absolutely. Point noted. See, I mean, one thing that we all have seen is, this COVID pandemic has changed the way, digitalization or digital transformation has shaped up, right? It was kind of pushed, on us. How do we change ourselves during this difficult time? Do you think once things becomes back to normalcy, it goes back to normalcy, some of the digitalization that we are seeing, some of the efforts that have been undertaken over the last 2 years, that will start to kind of go down a bit because now when things will become start getting back to normalcy? What do you think about that whole thing?
See, I mean, I keep on saying this, that there is before Christ and after Christ. That is how we used to look at eras. Now there is before COVID and after COVID. That BC and AC is completely changed. And this is permanent. Whatever has happened to us in the last 1.5 years, I would say should have been a trigger for healthcare increase in our country, but has triggered digitization in the country. And that's a fact. I don't think this is there to stop. In fact, some of us who've gone through this transformation and we are getting transformed by the day will not leave this at all. The efficiencies that we have seen, let's face it, I mean, before this, if we were to reach out to customers, we would call them out into a banquet hall, say, large meet, we would call them. And if the banquet hall had 700, 800 people, we would be excited. A good meet was 150, 200 people. Today, if we do a live broadcast, and if it is seen by 200 people, it is supposed to be a disaster. That's a reality. Any of our videos don't hit 75,000 hits or a lack of hits, we feel we have not penetrated. Look at the change in numbers. I don't think that will ever change. Now the physical meetings will have to be done with a purpose. Will have to be put at a premium. The normal mundane communication will continue to be done on the digital mode, which is a huge change. And if we are to meet, suppose just from our example, half the times our fund managers used to visit cities to give a market view. A market view will be done digitally permanently. If the fund manager has to travel and meet people, it has to be with a deeper purpose than just a broad market view. And that's what this has done. I mean, I don't think the physical transaction, people who have graduated to the digital mode of transacting will come back to physical ever, because now they see the efficiencies that are there, right? And world has moved to the smartphone. The laptop that I'm talking on at this moment is for the camera and for the efficiency of it being in front of me. Otherwise, life has already moved to the smartphone, and it will only go on from there. And where it can go is unbelievable. And that's something which all of us are going through as we speak. We thought we were digitally savvy before this COVID thing started. Within the first month, I realized that I knew nothing. And then look at the efficiencies that are coming in, especially say from our backend. Today, the backend storage and what has happened is the consciousness of the safety of this data. The increased investments that are going into just preventing any kind of fraud or any kind of hacking that comes into our data. And our data is now not small. We are finally qualifying for what they call big data, right? That's how large the industry is slowly but surely becoming. So these are factors which developed only during the last 1.5 years. And it's only for the better. I don't think we'll go back ever. We'll only build on this.
Sure, sir. So you touched upon a very important part, around risk surveillance, So now, since all these strategies are running on AI, clouds, do you think there's definitely a threat to the data as well? Or do you think we have kind of come to a state, where it's not a worry at all, for the asset management industry in India?
Whenever something becomes precious, there is always a threat, right? And today, future, I mean, the asset is data, right? And it's up to one big part of our fiduciary role, apart from managing money, is also safeguarding a person's personal data, because these are the financial data. And if we don't step up to it, then something we are not doing justice to our fiduciary role. It just does not restrict itself to just managing money. It's also managing somebody's personal financial data, which he or she is giving us. So if we are not stepping up our act on this one, then we are not doing our work well. Hence, the enhanced, and I think the regulator has also stepped up on this. To be fair, I think the enhanced focus on cyber security, the insurances that are developing behind cyber security is just been fantastic to learn. I mean, as a person, I'm learning that by the day, and the sooner we put a good comprehensive moat around ourselves, and it can be penetrated because somebody else is building efficiencies far better than us. So it's not something which is done and dusted. You have to completely be at it on a 24/7, 365-day kind of an effort, and that's what makes this so exciting and so on your toes kind of a thing. So yes, this will only increase. We have to step up our act.
So since you mentioned about that, sir, I mean, Mirai Asset Management, how are you coping up, to the digital transformation within the industry? What all things that you are doing?
See, actually, we had. I mean, to be fair to us, by construct, we had built our business plan 10 years ago that a digital transformation will come. While AMC is built on a brick and mortar sort of structure in 70, 80, 100 cities, we work only in 15, 16 cities, and we had said that this will play out. I'll give a small example. While we differ from the market, I don't know whether I'm right or wrong, but we feel the third party say apps will play over a single AMC app, where we are not there in that market, because going forward, why should an investor come to 10 different AMCs in 10 different apps? He has to go to an aggregator app, right? And so that is looking at the future in mind. So we had geared ourselves up, but I must say the external market is also moving very fast. So sometimes we are behind the curve, sometimes we go ahead of the curve. But I think the amount of investments we've done internally into this side of the business would be one of the largest post fund management infrastructure expenses. So we are on the job, but the only point I'm trying to make is it's an incredible thing to keep pace with the way that part is supposedly unfolding. So sometimes we feel we are catching up. Sometimes we feel, okay, this one we've got right. But it is after fund management probably our most focus area.
All right, sir. I mean, these are very interesting insights. And if I ask you, 3 years down the line, how would you imagine this whole thing will pan out? What's your vision for that would be?
See, today I can safely say that, you can run an asset management company digitally. And mark my words, there will be somebody around the corner doing that. So I'm surprised somebody isn't yet, but the brick and mortar is dismantling. That dismantling is happening for sure. The new investors, and by sheer numbers of India, the new investors or the number of investors will quickly outpace our collective investor base so far very quickly because of the changing demography of India. And in the next 5 years, for sure, the numbers which you talked about at the beginning of our discussion will be destroyed very soon as we speak.
Absolutely, sir. And we're looking forward to that. We really want to see the industry grow in leaps and bounds, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So, sir, if we ask you, what will be your final closing remark for the audience, we have in front of us today? What would be that?
I think the best thing that could have happened to us through the digital transformation is ease of living. I mean, make it a means of your growth path. Don't become slaves to it is my humble submission. I come from the old school of thinking. And that's where, use it as a means. Don't succumb to the aura of it, and it can be very corrupting. And use it to find your own goals rather than it becoming your goal is my basic submission.
Thank you, sir. Very, very interesting insights. And I'm sure the viewers will have learned a lot from this conversation with you. So with this, we come to the end of this episode of Master Talk today, presented by Refinitiv in collaboration with Outlook Money. Thank you, Mr. Swaroop Mohanty, for joining us today and sharing your valuable thoughts with us. Viewers, we hope you enjoyed our conversation today. And if you have any comments, suggestions, or any questions for our esteemed guest, do write to letters@outlookmoney.com. Have a great day and happy investing.